Coming to you live from the Business RadioX studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by IDS, an award-winning digital marketing agency that delivers integrated marketing solutions for franchisors, franchisees, and franchise development teams. Learn why over 75 brands depend on IDS's team of dedicated marketers and client service professionals to deliver a strong ROI on their marketing investment. Go to idsfranchisemarketing.com for a complimentary digital audit and consultation.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Franchise Marketing Radio. I'm your host, Rob Ganley, and I have an excellent guest for us today, a gentleman that really, really understands the franchise industry, and I'm excited to talk to him. Welcome, Mike Hall. He's the senior consultant and owner of FranNet Carolinas. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it.
Got it. It's great having you. And I gave you that tee up because I know you have a broad view of the industry. You get to work with a lot of great brands and have for a very long time. So that really means you have a really interesting view and a great perspective. So we're going to have a good conversation today. But before we get started, tell me a little bit about how that happened. How did you get involved with FranNet? Tell me a little bit more about your operation there in the Carolinas and where that's headed.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So really, my journey started in California, interestingly enough. Like many of our clients, I was working in corporate America and was working in a state that I thought I wanted to live in the rest of my life. Earthquakes and forest fires and all the other things that afflict California made me decide that it was time to leave. About the same time that I decided to leave corporate America and start buying my own businesses. And so I was on the way to North Carolina to buy and to start up some franchises, which I did. Before I left California, by good fortune, I happened to meet a fellow named Howard Bassick, who started this whole concept of, let's call it franchise brokering right now, for lack of something better. And he had started FranNet, which of course is short for Franchise Network. I'm sure your audience can pick that up. And I had a chance to meet him and understand what he was trying to do and this concept that he was trying to form. I fell in love with it. I said, I am headed to Charlotte, North Carolina. I am going to buy some franchise companies and start them. Could I also take this concept with me? And he said, sure, no problem. And so that's how that got started. I moved to Charlotte. I started up a franchise. I started up FranNet at the same time. I eventually sold my franchise, and FranNet became my job and my position and my vocation for the last 29 years. So that's how I got started in it. We are, as many people know us as brokers, or they know us as consultants in the franchise industry. I prefer to think of us more as executive recruiting firm for franchise companies. If you think about what a recruiting firm does, it works with people that are looking for jobs. It probably runs an assessment on them. It understands their skill sets, their background, and then it matches those people with jobs that make sense. And they go on interviews and interview for jobs. We do exactly the same thing for franchise companies. Our clients are a number of different people. They are professionals in transition. They are current franchise owners. They are veterans. They are investors. And they come to us because they are interested in the franchise industry. We perform an exclusive assessment. We have lots of conversation. We begin to understand who they are, their strengths, their weaknesses, their professional and personal goals. And once we know that, we can then start matching them up with the franchise companies that make sense for them. We get them involved in the research. Ultimately, they end up making a decision. Yes, I'm going to buy. No, I'm not. Yes, I'm going to buy this particular company. And that's how we work. And that's how we work with our clients. We are free of charge to our clients. And we have put over the years well over 500 people into business. Wow.
You're the real deal. So I laugh because one comment about the forest fires and stuff. probably maybe the same around age in life as you were, I decided I was going to relocate my family to Colorado. And I certainly did the math and the analysis of California. And because I love, who wouldn't love California? It's a beautiful geographic phenomenon. It's got the ocean, the mountains, everything. And so it decided, well, I think Colorado's a safer bet. I thought of earthquakes too. And, of course, I think the first few years we were here, we had a couple of forest fires. I said, oh no, what's this about? I wasn't used to that. That was one I wasn't ready for. But anyway, it's good to be here. I like it here. But you made a very interesting comment about it's like the recruiting industry, right? And one thing I've always thought about franchising as well is that I feel like it gives someone an opportunity to really decide what works for them. Right? Like when you're interviewing for jobs, you're really sort of, recruiter or not, you're relegated to very narrow choices, and you really don't always have the power to say, well, that's what I want to do, right? Versus that. And franchising gives folks the opportunity to do that. So that's a great thing about franchising. You really can say, well, I'm really a fit for this. Guys like you can really help someone see their strengths and weaknesses and really know more about what is it really like to run that kind of a business versus, I really like Starbucks coffee, even though Starbucks is not a franchise, but I like that coffee, so maybe I'll run that. Well, it's not really, that's not what the business might be, right? So guys like you can help folks really understand what is it like to run that kind of a business. And that's a great, great thing. And one of the follow-ups to that is, the franchise industry, for those that aren't in it yet, what is it about being part of the franchise brand that helps that local owner? What would you say that is probably overlooked and not even thought about? That's sort of the invisible force of that. What do you tell me a little more about that?
Well, it's a great question, and it's one that we impart to. The answer is we impart that to our clients, and they purchase franchises because of the answer to this question, I think. If I might for a second, let's start with what a franchise is exactly, right? Yeah. Or at least my definition. And, franchises don't really invent anything. They don't, the franchise concepts are not new high technology concepts that were just invented. A franchise company goes into a highly fragmented, poorly run market and brings consolidation to that market. They bring professionalism to the market. And when you begin to answer the question about what a franchise does for the owners, that's the start. In a large brand name like a UPS store or a Great Clips or something like that everybody knows, if you're going to start that up somewhere in North Carolina, you already bring a brand name and you already bring customers, because people all over the country have heard about Great Clips or Supercuts or UPS store. So brand is very, very important, but franchises bring other things to help their clients. Or to help their owners. They bring operational management. They bring the efficiencies that go with that. They bring great technology, which a lot of kind of mom and pop businesses don't have and don't know how to implement. That includes, it includes POS systems and CRM systems and kind of integrated software platforms that help run a business. The franchisor understands this, and this is what it takes to run a business. And so the franchisees that they bring in have access to that. They understand how to use it through training and that sort of thing. They can track inventory better. They really retain customers better. They just do a better job of managing their business because of the franchisor. Franchisors have call centers, right? You can start up a franchise company and you get a lot of calls from customers. If you're a franchise owner, you may have access to a call center. They handle all of that for you. Franchisors help their owners, understand how to market their business and how to take advantage of marketing and PR. They provide great support in marketing and PR when you're opening your business, you're getting noticed well before your business is opened. And then they provide great marketing support and understanding how do you maintain your customers and how do you retain them and how do you scale up, right? And increase your customers and increase their dollars purchased from you. So I could go on and on, but there are a lot of things that franchise companies bring to their franchise owners. And that is precisely the reason that if somebody's going to buy this, that's precisely the reason that people buy franchises for all of the things that a franchise can bring.
Yeah. And I think, so when I think of all that, and I think of the traditional barriers, like when you look at statistics, like, well, if you start a business yourself, what is the probability you'll succeed versus, a franchise, let's say. And, obviously a huge difference, right? And then you say, okay, the franchise is doing all those things for me, but what that does for me is it breaks down the barriers that are up in my head, the lack of confidence, the things that I'm not expecting that will derail me. And many times you only have so much runway on that, right? On that to take off. And for many, if they're doing it by themselves, they run out. If their mind or their head didn't get to them before that, if they hang in there, they might run off the runway. But, that's really for me, like that's sort of that invisible force that you don't talk about that, but it's like, that's why most people fail. It's in their mind. They give up maybe before they should, and they second guess. And so they make mistakes. So the franchise really removes all of that. Right. And I want to see if you agree, but when we were going through COVID a couple of years ago, when it first was happening, I remember we were interviewing franchisors, and of course, that was a topic. But what we always circled back to through that whole process of talking to franchise brands, how are you dealing with it? What's going on? The innovations that were going on both ways, from franchisees up and franchisors down, the leadership. It was like everything was on hyperdrive in the franchise industry. And what I said to myself was, that's why you want to be in a franchise. Mm-hmm. Like, that's about as bulletproof as you could be, even though no matter what, COVID was challenging. Mm-hmm. But man, being independent during that time, not easy, right? But that's like a testament, if you will, I think, to why franchising is so powerful. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to say.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I do.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so when you look at then, okay, that's what the franchise brand can do for somebody that wants to start a business. Tell us a little more about what is that sort of, if there is a DNA, you're a guy now that has talked to a lot of people, okay, 500 folks that you've put into franchises. I'm sure you've talked to thousands, right? And what is that sort of DNA, if you will, that you see as being, okay, now you bring your DNA, you've got the franchise, and now you're a top guy. What does that look like?
So it's part of what we do. When we are dealing with a client, one of the first things we're trying to determine is, should they be in business for themselves in the first place? Because not everybody's a business owner, right? And we get a lot of people that are coming to us and they're unhappy with their position, and they're just thinking, boy, if I just owned my own business and did for it what I'm doing for my company, I would be a zillionaire and I would be happy and I'd be running my business from the beach and I'd be traveling all over the world. And, whether or not you buy a franchise, it's still a big transition from corporate America or whatever you were doing, if you've never owned a business, into business ownership. It's still a big transition. And so we take people, through an assessment, and we begin learning some things about them, about their strengths and their skill sets and their objectives, personal and professional, because we want to use that to match them up with a business. but we're also learning other things about them. You ask about the DNA that they have, but this is not DNA, but first of all, are they in a position financially and job-wise to actually do this and make the transition? There are some franchise companies that are not very expensive. There are some franchise companies that will cost you a lot of money, but you have to have the finances to do it. You have to be able to do this. So it's one of the first things we look at. You have got to be a true self-starter. You have got to be motivated to do the research that it takes to understand if you should be in business ownership. And if that's the case, are these businesses that FranNet is presenting to you, are they the right ones? The research itself takes 14 weeks or 16 weeks. Nobody makes a decision overnight about, I like that franchise, I'm going to buy it. This takes time, it takes research, it takes digging in. If we see people that don't do that, immediately we know, okay, these are probably not the right people. When you own your own business, nobody's going to make you get up in the morning and get started. But when you own your own business, this is something that you have to be able to do. And it's got to be almost, as you say, in your DNA. So it's about desire. It's about self-motivation. And it's about truly having a vision that says, I want my next working years, 10 or 15 years or whatever it is, to look different. I want to control what I do. Business owners ultimately want control over everything else. I want a balance of lifestyle. That does not mean an easy lifestyle, but it means, and our clients want to work hard, but they want to work when they want to work. And they don't want to adhere to a schedule put on them by a large bank or a large technology company or whatever it is. So these are the things that our clients want. And they also are painting for themselves a vision. What will this business grow to? How will it scale up? What will it do for me and my family? So when you talk about DNA, the people that really end up buying businesses ask those questions, seek those answers before they decide to pull the trigger, spend some money, invest in a business. That's what we see a lot of, and those end up being the successful clients. And I will tell you the one other thing that should be in a franchisee's DNA is to be able to humble yourself, to understand that I'm buying a franchise because I'm learning from them this blueprint. You're giving me this business. I'm going to apply my skill set to grow the business, but I am smart enough and yet humble enough to listen to your experience and what you've done, because I know if I follow that, that will make me successful. And you would be surprised, Rob, how many people don't have that in their DNA.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, I'm thinking to myself, that in and of itself is one of the biggest challenges of not having a franchise around you. You do need that, right? But if you have that inability to learn from things around you, and you just constantly want to, I guess maybe chase a shiny object, it becomes very difficult. And you're right, when people, even if given a blueprint, they have a tendency, let alone if they're not given a blueprint, is I guess what I was trying to say. And I also thought of a couple things as you were talking, so one is responsibility. I think as a business owner, you get the opportunity to be in a position of responsibility, which, in my studies of that is something that gives you a lot of meaning and purpose in your life. And when you're in a bigger environment like a corporation, you oftentimes don't have as much responsibility as you might think you do. And so as a business owner, you really do have to shift that mindset and say, it's still up to me no matter what. Okay. The franchise brand is here, but I got to make this happen. And the other thing I thought of was pressure, right? Like, so money, obviously there are requirements in the franchise industry for this reason. And that is, if you're under pressure, like I got to pay the bills next month, whatever that pressure might be, that's not a good recipe for most people. There are some people like Tom Brady, right, who just thrives in pressure. I mean, the guy's just better in pressure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like someone like that, right? But most people aren't, right? And so that's the other thing that I think is important to note. And then we talk about, you had mentioned having control, meaning you are responsible. This is yours. It is up to you. And you get to have that vision and that end, maybe that exit plan someday, and having control is what reduces stress. So I know for me, like not being able to say, I made that happen. I know what I got to do. I have the resource. I'm going to make it. When that isn't in place and you don't have that control, it can be very stressful. So I think they're all benefits and ideas kind of encapsulating what you were saying there. So I appreciate that. So tell me a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about marketing. I know you work to get great folks on board into brands. What have you seen, especially in the Carolinas where you are? What is there, and I know you work with a lot of industries, but is there something you see that brands do regularly to help those franchise owners get launched and then scale the way they would like? What is there any couple ingredients to a good marketing plan locally?
I believe there are. And the best franchisors bring to the table great marketing expertise, which is part of what you're paying for, by the way, when you buy a franchise. You're paying for that marketing expertise. Some are better at it than others. This past Monday, I was at the grand opening of a client's business. This happened to be in Jacksonville, Florida. And this business, interestingly enough, you may not have heard this with one of these franchises before, but it's in the butcher business. Butchers today are not what they were 40 years ago. They are high-end, they are technology-driven, they are beautiful when you walk in, great product selection, lots of things. But I was talking to the owner, obviously a client, and I said, tell me about the marketing plan. What did the package look like? And in this particular case, they had done a great job for him. And this is a blueprint, I think, for all franchisors. So, a good marketing plan starts off with good PR and good marketing into the community, but a lot of PR, because what you want as a franchisee, whether you're opening a butcher or whether you're opening some other retail store or whether you're opening a fitness center, and a fitness center is a great example, you want clients lined up at the front door when you're getting ready to open. They need to know about you 90 days or 120 days before you open your business. So a great marketing plan starts with PR. It goes through social media marketing, all the platforms that make sense. The business journal, the PR firm got the business journals to do a write-up on this business twice before they even opened their doors. Local newspaper picked up new business coming into the area. This is good PR. And all of a sudden, people began going, hey, we need this particular butcher business in this neighborhood. And so you're building clientele before you even open. Part of it. So PR is huge. Great website. A franchise company generally has a great website. You as a franchisee have pages on that website. Lots of SEO prior to opening up. You would certainly know a lot about that. And like I said, the goal is to create excitement right before you're opening. And then after you open, a great CRM system, which a franchisor has the ability to go out and find the best and have you implement those systems in your operation. A great CRM system, you can build a great marketing plan through that, because now you're capturing customer data. And you can, after a while, you start understanding their buying patterns. You can actually market to them in certain ways different from other clients that you have. But you are constantly marketing to the customers that you have, and you're keeping them excited about your business, always in your vision. That's important. So you scale through great CRM platforms that kind of ping your database all the time, right?
Right.
So those sorts of things, to me, that's all marketing. Mm-hmm. And it is what a good franchisor does. They get your local community excited before you come in. Now, when you open the door, you then develop customers who keep coming back because of the way that you market to them through a great CRM. It could be a lot of other ways as well. But that's one of the great things that a franchise company brings to you, the owner. It's what you're paying for.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's a lot to what you just said, right? And things are continually evolving, and especially around these technology tools and something like a CRM, right? The ways it works, the ways it can benefit you, the ways you can use it to market. And what is marketing? Well, it's just you're serving your audience. You're trying to be timely. You're trying to be relevant. You're trying to be personalized. And those things are hard to do if you don't have the right tools. And it's hard as an individual to start a business of any type, like a butcher or a plumber or something else. You have to be a master at that, not a master at a CRM, right? And it's I would say virtually impossible unless you're really, like, again, I'll go back to Tom Brady, right? The guy just has a lot of talent. But I mean, not everybody can do 50 things at once. And that's what the franchise is there for, and the constant innovation behind all that, right? So it's like we have the CRM today. Well, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we might change that, right? You don't have to worry. We'll take care of it for you. And I was kind of thinking as you first talked about the PR and getting the franchise ready. So we had an In-N-Out burger launch here in Colorado Springs.
That's a favorite of a lot of people.
Yeah. The line was so far. I'm like, why would someone wait in this line for a burger? I mean, I get it's good, but I turned around. I said, whoever did that is a master at marketing. I think it had to be a mile. Like it was like backing up. They had police directing traffic because there was a long line going into this place.
But you bring up something. So this is important about In-N-Out and about that's where the brand name alone. Mm-hmm. Well, we were just talking about Jacksonville a few minutes ago. I don't know if they have an In-N-Out burger there, but when the market understands that one is coming in, all you need is the brand name, and it's going to be successful. But I'm talking about this butcher business, and there are other fitness businesses that don't have that national brand name yet, but they're kind of building it. So what they're going to end up doing is building a local brand name because you're going to put 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 locations or territories or whatever is there. But that's why the franchisor having a great marketing program. Not all franchisors have big brand names. And so they absolutely have to have a great marketing program. The brand name will get developed within an area. And one other thing that I think is really important here, Rob, and we see it all the time, is a franchise owner gets started up. They get started. They might, if it's an expensive franchise, and there are some there, they might borrow some money for it. They've obviously invested heavily in this. And one of the things that is the easiest thing for them to skimp on is marketing. And yet, if you don't invest enough money to market your business up front, you get behind the 8 ball, and then you are catching up all the time. And so even though a franchisor provides great marketing, the franchisee is still having to pay for a lot of that through third-party vendors and that sort of thing. And it's so easy for a new business owner to go, hey, I've got a lot of customers when I started up. Things are going great. I've spent a lot of money on starting up already. I'm going to cut back on marketing a bit. And it is a huge mistake. And here's the other mistake that people make. And it's funny, I was just reading an article on this the other day. When do you spend money on marketing? And what you see during, we're expecting kind of a mild recession here, right? In the middle of 2023 or the beginning of 2024, if we have one at all. What do people do in recessions? They cut back on marketing. What should they be doing in recessions? Spending more money on marketing. I hammer down. You're going to pick up business that way.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right. So you've got the brands that are very recognizable, and then you've got some that aren't as much, but they're masters at the frame, I call it, right? They can frame that local franchisee as a big brand, and they do so. And that's important.
Right.
So as we wrap things up, it's been great. It's been a great conversation. This is going to be a tougher one, right? To kind of narrow down, but we've said a lot. But is there, in your business, you've done this for 29 years, and I can tell you, I've met a lot of guys in this business, and you are a pioneer. Like, I don't think you said that about yourself, but you are. And FranNet is probably one of the most respected names in this business. And but is there something over these years you've learned that you kind of say, this is the one thing, this is something I always have to look for, or I see, it's just a principle or an idea that you really just resonated with you and you feel like it's helped you get to where you are and is helping you move forward? Is there something like that you could share?
Yeah, sure there is. I probably have several. I have to kind of narrow them down a little bit.
You could say more than one.
No. I in respect of your time here, learning from successful people, to me, is so important, whether or not you're a franchise owner. With FranNet Carolina, when I get together with the other offices in the country, we have such smart people. They have such great ideas, and they are so willing to share. And there's not any of this, not invented here sort of mentality, right? And I've managed to have a great career out of this, but it is absolutely because I've learned from the best. If you are a franchise owner and you're in a system of 200 or 300 other people, you know that there are the top 20% that are doing exceedingly well in the franchise. You learn from them. The franchise company gives you the opportunity through weekly, monthly, quarterly meetings, national conventions, whatever it is. You go to those conventions and you learn. And what I see, whether it's inside of FranNet in our offices or whether it is in a franchise, is that the most successful offices and the most successful people always attend all of the programs because they constantly learn. They don't get to a point where they go, I've been very successful. I don't have to go to this best practice meeting. I don't have to go to this convention. I know it all. They never know it all. They are learning. They implement best practices that they learn. They learn from successful people. To me, as I'm talking to you now, because I'm just thinking about this, this would be this to me is the most important mantra, as you call it, that probably has governed my life, and I think should be something that franchisees implement all the time.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think I remember back to I'm going to age myself a little bit, in the 90s. My first job out of college, I remember it was in sales. It was a technology type of company, and I remember talking to one of the top guys, right? He was a little older. He was probably in his 30s, and I was in my early 20s. And I remember him telling me, if you want to be good, then find the best people and emulate what they're doing and try to figure that out. And I remember I took that to heart. And I don't think to this day, I mean, if anyone says I'm good at anything, I would say, well, because there were these really smart guys that have taught me over and over, and I never stop learning. I try to find anyone who's proving something, doing something at a high level that I'm not, such as yourself, right? Like right now in this conversation, there's no one that I could find that has talked to as many people about starting a business, has looked at as many brands and business models as a guy like you. Right. And so I can recognize that and say, man, I can learn a lot from Mike. Right. so that's, and again, it may be just certain things. Right. But I've adopted that myself. So I think that was brilliant. I really appreciate that. So before we do sign off today, is there a website that folks could learn more about what you're doing, especially in the Carolinas?
Sure. And just our general website across the country, FranNet, FranNet, FranNet Carolina, or FranNet.com. And my individual site is FranNet.com/mhall. That'll get you to us. We also, by the way, place people outside of the Carolinas. We just happen to be, because there are people that leave all the time, or clients know about us and we place them in Chicago or California or whatever. But yeah, that's FranNet.com. It's easy to get to us that way. You can get to me, or you can get to Ethan or Kathy, the other folks that I have on my team, and we're always happy to help. We always appreciate people, approaching us and asking us for information and kind of getting started on the journey. There's nothing we like better than seeing somebody start a business and be successful. And while we understand it's not for everybody, and I say that in my seminars all the time, it's not for everybody. It's so great to see somebody get started on this journey, make that transition and be successful. It's kind of what we live for.
Well, Mike Hall, thank you very much. And I totally agree with that. It's in your last comment there, you're doing a service for anyone, right? When you're helping them figure things out, right? Is it right for you? I mean, what questions should you be thinking about? The ones you're not knowing you should ask. And I think that's a great service. Sounds like you're welcome. Folks are welcome to reach out and learn more. So take advantage. I would tell you, take advantage of that. It's been great having you on the show today, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob. I enjoyed it.
Okay. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and our sponsors, and bye for now.